Breaking news, armored vehicles on the streets of Moscow as Russian state media this hour says security measures have been stepped up in Moscow. State media also saying Putin is aware of a situation unfolding around Yevgeny Prigozhin, the chief of the private Wagner army. The situation so serious tonight that state television broke into scheduled programming, broke into it to deliver this message to the Russian people from the Russian Ministry of Defense.
All the messages and video footage spread on social networks on behalf of Evgeny Prigozhin that the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation allegedly carried out strikes on the rear camps of Wagner PMC is not true and is an informational provocation.
Breaking into programming to tell Russian people not to listen to Prigozhin while armored vehicles are on the streets of Moscow. These developments coming after Prigozhin today essentially declared war on the Russian military because he did. He accused them of deliberately striking his fighters and of killing a, quote, huge amount of them. And then he vowed to punish those who did it.
They saw that we weren't broken, and they launched strikes on our camps. A huge amount of our fighters were killed. Our comrades in arms. We will make a decision about how to respond to these atrocities. The next step is ours.
Was that a declaration of war? Matthew Chance is out front. And Matthew, look, these are sort of an unprecedented and quickly moving situation here. What is going on here?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult to know exactly what's going on because the situation is moving so quickly. But it is absolutely astonishing that the situation has been allowed by the Kremlin to deteriorate this far before, you know, this kind of significant action was taking. The tensions between Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Wagner chief, and the Russian Defense Ministry have been deteriorating and simmering for months now. And of course, now Prigozhin is vowing to attack Russian troops in retaliation for what he says was an attack on his own paramilitary forces earlier today. Some of these images are quite graphic.
These are the chaotic scenes posted by the Wagner mercenary group of what they say is their forest camp struck by the Russian military. In a clearing, trees appear to have been smashed, some with fabric strewn from their branches. Through a gash in the soil, a fire burns in what appears to be a destroyed bunker. There are gruesome images too, of a corpse in the undergrowth, as well as severed body parts. The Russian Defense Ministry denies any role in this, but a furious Wagner leader is vowing revenge.
Those who destroyed our guys today, along with tens of thousands of lives of Russian soldiers, will be punished. I ask no one to put up any resistance. Justice for the troops will be restored, and then justice for all of Russia.
It's a threat of violence now posing a major challenge to the authority of President Putin. The Kremlin says all necessary measures are being taken. And now the Russian security service has opened a criminal case into what they say is a call for armed rebellion. Patience with Prigozhin appears to have finally run out. The Wagner chief, whose mercenaries have played a key role in the Ukraine war, has long been at odds with Russia's military command, accusing them repeatedly of mishandling the conflict. But recent weeks have seen tensions escalate after the Kremlin ordered all Russian mercenaries to sign contracts with the Defense Ministry in a move seen as a crackdown on Wagner. In the hours before the alleged strike on the Wagner camp, Prigozhin stepped up his war of words, accusing the Defense Ministry of tricking the country into an unprovoked invasion back in February last year.
On February 24th, nothing extraordinary happened. But the Ministry of Defense was trying to deceive the public, to deceive the president, and say that there was insane aggression on the part of Ukraine and that they were going to attack us together with NATO. The war was not needed in order to return Russian citizens to our bosom, and not needed in order to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine.
It is a bold, even dangerous criticism of Russia's war that may be plunging the country into turmoil.
Well, tonight, Erin, Moscow, the Russian capital, has been placed on alert, while Yevgeny Prigozhin, in his latest address on social media, has said that his forces are entering the southern Russian region of Rostov, in the south of the country, just across from the border of Ukraine. And he says it is his intention to go on, in his words, until the end. Erin.
All right. Thank you very much, Matthew. Let's go straight to the White House now, because these developments are now front and center there as well. Jeremy Diamond is out front there. And Jeremy, how concerned is the White House about what is literally unfolding as we speak in Russia? I mean, Matthew talking about Prigozhin saying that he's going into Rostov-on-Don, a Russian city. We don't know in what capacity, what's happening, but this is changing minute by minute.
Yeah, there's no question about it. This is a fast-moving situation with massive geopolitical implications. And so obviously the White House very, very closely monitoring this situation. I'm also told that officials are being very cautious about any kind of statements that they put out because of the fast-moving nature of what is happening. But I can tell you, Erin, that President Biden has indeed been briefed on this unfolding situation in Russia. And I have a statement from the National Security Council spokesman Adam Hodge, who says, quote, "We are monitoring the situation and will be consulting with allies and partners on these developments." Now, as I mentioned, this is a situation with so many implications here. Obviously, in the war in Ukraine, we know the key role that the Wagner Group has played in helping Russia with its military invasion of that country. But beyond even the war in Ukraine, Russia is a nuclear power. And so whatever happens, any kind of power struggle is obviously going to have massive geopolitical implications. Now, the U.S. has long monitored tensions between the Wagner Group and the Russian Ministry of Defense. We have heard that directly from the podium here at the White House, but obviously this is going to be a very long night here at the White House, and I suppose in capitals around the world monitoring this situation.
Absolutely. Erin? Jeremy, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Retired Army Major General Spider Marks joins me, as we have spoken throughout this war so many times. So, General Marks, the latest, Prigozhin says he's entering Rostov-on-Don, a Russian city, and we don't know whether that's invading or staying or what it is. It comes as you have armored vehicles on the streets of Moscow. They're breaking into state TV, saying don't believe anything Prigozhin says. He says the Russians attacked and killed a lot of his fighters. The next steps are ours. It sounds like a declaration of some sort of a war. It's unclear. What do you even make of all this?
Well, what that really describes, Aaron, is just this element of extreme chaos and uncertainty. I mean, it's been described that these events are rolling very, very quickly. But what it tells you, I think, at the strategic level is that you end up with circumstances like this when you have strong men, when you have these autocrats, and everybody pledges their loyalty to the individual. This is not a constitutional crisis. What this is a two strong men, Putin and Prigozhin, that have allowed this strategic lunacy to take place. So looking at this from the outside in, what are all the other global powers thinking, as just been discussed, in terms of how they think this is going to play out and what the longer term implications are? Look, if Prigozhin gets apprehended and somebody pops him in the head, what does that mean in terms of Putin's longevity?
Right.
Nobody
what does
knows.
that mean? I mean, they're now saying that at least the security services in Russia, as you talk about these disparate groups, are imploring Wagner fighters to detain and turn Prigozhin in. Now, who knows what happens? If something like that happens, does that then become something much bigger? It's impossible to know.
Oh, this is internal fighting. And I mean, I don't know that we can predict this with any level of certainty. I hate to sound too cynical, but why not? I mean, this could be some drama that's playing out that enhances Putin's stature at the expense of Prigozhin that's already been pre-baked. Prigozhin goes away, but he manages to live to fight another day in some means. We simply don't know right now, but we've seen this. This is a failed military with failed leadership. Putin has allowed that to take place. He's inserted this Wagner group to try to unscrew a number of significant problems, and you've ended up cooking up this type of a challenge that is at the very highest strategic levels because nukes can be involved. That must be the first order of business.
All right. General, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And we are going to stay with this breaking news that is developing by the minute.